Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Scouser Tommies, coming at you at a time when things are quite good for Liverpool, and I hope that's still the case when you're listening to this. But to be honest, by the time you listen to this, there'll still be so much going up for Liverpool, I'm sure. It's just been one of those seasons. I'm Jim Boardman, and I'm joined today again by Jay Reid as we look ahead and look back a bit to what's been going on. And there's so much been going on. It's all involving trophies, but that's good. That's good because it's May. We've not picked any up in May yet, but this is the month when we go gathering them. And as we record this, it's sort of in the wake of us making sure that we're going to be in a Champions League final. Anything quickly to say on that, Jay, or, that's not so obvious? I think we all know what we think about it. It was just, what a night, and what a night the night after as well.
Yeah, I think it was, falsely portrayed that we were in trouble of going out. I heard under Martin Keown put a quote out on TalkSport, I think it was, for the drivel that they all put out. It was like talking about West Ham this morning at the radio on, and he was saying, West Ham went out and City went out and Liverpool nearly went out. Like, we never did, did we?
Yes.
At any point we were drawn. that was it. But yeah, I think it was, the old cliche, the game of two halves. But, there's been enough said about that game for everyone to listen to. But I think it just showed what type of team we are, that, in times of adversity and when we could look like we're under a little bit of pressure, calm heads will prevail, and the maturity and the experience and the professionalism of the lads and just the quality shone through in the end. And I think everybody knew we couldn't play much worse than what we did in the first half, really. So the second half was the real Liverpool, and the real Liverpool was clearly far too good for Villarreal, for all the credit they got where they did. Through a lot of hard games, but they deserve to be there. If you're in the Champions League semi-final, you deserve to be there. You don't get through on sheer luck. And then the night after, I always fancied Madrid to win on the night, and I did say to a few of my friends, I fancied him in extra time because it's Madrid, it's the Bernabeu, it's everything about it. Like, they've got it and City don't. And then even going into the last few minutes, I was like, just get one with 10 minutes to go and it'll all happen. And, they left it till 89. But as it transpired, the experience, the nous, the know-how, the professionalism all shone through once again. And as Jose Mourinho once said, it's football heritage that sometimes wins these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we look at heritage for Man City as well. It's like, something I remember being spoken about the old Liverpool teams, and it was sort of mentioned about Alex Ferguson's teams, and then it kind of, to me, it's sort of coming back to us now in terms of what helps you with things is experience. And I'm talking about experience of actually going through what you have to go through to pick up that bit of silverware, which, it's picking the trophy up. It's easy. Getting to the point where you can pick it up is not easy. And having the experience of doing that is something that once they've had it, and I've heard this so many times, once they've had it, they are so hungry to have it again, that is what drives them on into the next season. So it's not just about experience in the sense of knowing how things work. It's more like, it's like the desire. And I think, sadly for Man City and against Real Madrid, something we can also mention is that Real Madrid were already wearing shirts saying that they'd won it, is it 14 times?
Let's go for 14. I think it was translated roughly.
Okay, because I heard people saying they were already acting as if they'd got 14. But the thing is, what would City t-shirts have said if they'd done the same thing? Let's try and win it for the first ever time. And that's the thing. Their experience is only of losing, of going out in semis, of getting to finals and losing. And that's what their experience is. And I think that's going to be something that drives Pep Guardiola mad, because he I don't know. I mean, you can't call him a failure, but I think in his own mind, he'll consider himself not to have been a complete success if he doesn't get that Champions League at some point. And he's come close, but no cigar.
I think, failure may be a big word to use for him, but in an aspect, he was brought in to win the Champions League. He was deemed the best coach in the world by many, and rightly so for some of the things he's done in football. And he's been given every possible opportunity, every gift he could ever want, as much money, all the players he wanted. He's had them all. Maybe barring Harry Kane because Daniel Levy wouldn't sell him to him last year, but he's got no real excuse. He's sculpted this team over 6 years, 7 years is it now he's been there. Mm-hmm. And his remit probably was on day one, we want to win the Champions League. We want to be the champions of Europe, and then as Liverpool and Chelsea have gone on in recent years to be champions of the world for the year, that luxury of winning the Champions League brings. And it's all about the glitz and the glamour and the name, and being the best of whatever, for the Middle Eastern owners, and they've not got that. So yeah, if you look at it in cold hard reality, he's failed on that respect. Obviously he's won a multitude of trophies in the meantime, but when it comes down to it, the big one that he's been asked to do, he doesn't seem to be able to do it. And you can look at many things, but at the end of the day, he's sculptured this team into what he wanted, and it's clearly just not good enough. They haven't got the minerals, as some might say. It's just, I don't know. Will he continue to give it a go, or will this, as the brain mad person that Pep is, just eat him up inside, and he'll self-combust and actually just think, well, I can never do it because I've come so close so many times, and there's always this or that stops me. And I don't know whether his contract runs out next year, whether he'll just jack it in next year and go right, well, we go next year all in for it. And if he doesn't get it, then he has to hold his hands up and walk away, because he might never ever get it, especially at City anyway.
I think it's good that we're having this conversation now, that we're I think it's good to sort of say that we aren't assuming that we're going to go and win anything this month. We know, and I think it's clear the players know, that we know we've still got a lot to do. We've still got a long way to go. Half a dozen games, and we could end up with no more trophies than we've got now, which currently is one because we won the League Cup. But the truth is that we're in there, we're fighting, and I think it's one thing that was interesting as well was when you were talking about Villarreal, that they've not had a great season in the league, but they've done so well in the Champions League. And I think you wonder whether in the past have City done well in the cups, because you can kind of play a weaker team, but their weaker team will still be an expensive one. Still probably more expensive than most of the other teams in the top flight would put out. But even so, it gives you a bit of room for rotation. But having the quality to do it in the league and the Champions League might just be a step too far. And I think, we're so close in the league now. Any issues that Liverpool have had in terms of not winning the league, you can almost, unless something happens now, you can almost put back to when things were going on around Christmas and COVID and stuff like that. It's such a long time ago, but the squad is so strong, and I think the thing that underlines that is, as you say, there we were against Villarreal. We weren't playing well. They kind of played us at our own game. We couldn't handle that. Their fans were on their side. It felt like, an intimidating atmosphere, if you like. It was just great from them, poor from us. But then on came Luis Diaz, who, one of those January signings that people say you should never bother with. It's again, when we need to strengthen, we strengthen. When we need to let people go, we quietly let them go. We're not sort of buying people for the sake of it. We're not overspending. We're getting what we need, and we're paying what we think we should pay, and what's affordable and sustainable. And I think the way we played the other night, first half embarrassment, but you wouldn't know anything about it by the second half, the way we turned that round. It was just really, I felt like it was Diaz just sort of saying to his teammates, come on, do you realise what's going on here? Wake up, we've got a game to win.
I seen a good tweet the other night. It was like Luis Diaz channeling us in a Ginny Wijnaldum in the Barcelona tie, where he would come on and it was like, right, sleeves up, it's time for business sort of thing. But one point I would get on is, I think over the past 5-6 years, especially on the clock, going back many years, our main issue has always been we never had enough quality in the squad, and the squad has always been like just too short. And even going into this season, there was probably question marks of have we got enough, and myself included and many others, we probably needed one or two more. We probably would like the luxury of one or two more in certain positions, but I think we've been very savvy this year in terms of squad rotation, bringing players in and out and resting players and allowing players to come back from injuries in their own time rather than being rushed. I mean, look at Kyle Walker, for example, with Man City tonight. He was rushed in for that game and he broke down after about 55, 60 minutes and he may not feature again for the rest of the season. It was a gamble. But I think what makes you feel really good now as a Liverpool fan is any game you look at the bench and you think, wow, we've got game changers there. Only a year, 18 months ago, we were looking at the likes of, no disrespect to the lads, but the likes of Ben Woodburn and Reece Williams on the bench, and maybe other youngsters, Leighton Clarkson was getting on there. Even like towards credit, Tyler Morton, he's still not ready to be a Liverpool top professional player yet, but he's got the potential. But we've only used him a couple of times this year. But now you look at the bench and there's lads not making the squad. Oxlade-Chamberlain's missed out, Harvey Elliott's missed out, Minamino, Origi. And you look at Man City and I've got to be honest, there's lads on their bench who we don't know who they are, and they're only literally missing 2 or 3 players, I think, through injury. And I think, again, that's on the manager. That's obviously on the manager and the club. But you'd always think that the final say in transfers comes down to the manager. Do they want the player or not? And we've touched it many a times across the couple of years. Like City have let big players, leaders in their team go, in their squad go, and not replaced them. I mean, look at who they lost last year. They lost Aguero, and then you bring it in Jack Grealish. Like, it's night and day in what you're losing, not only as a player, but also like what they bring in professionalism off the field, experience. It's night and day, and I think we've just been so savvy in our recruitment, and the summer window is around the corner, and you'd imagine most of our business is pretty much 90% done, or any deals that we're interested in, we're way down the line. We're getting these players over the line and registered. I mean, the Fabio Carvalho one stems back to January, but it's as good as done. He's basically announced it himself, and his club have said we wish him all the best. And it's just the type of operation we're running. It's a different level to anyone. We can look at the neighbours down the road. We can look at the neighbours across Stanley Park, and their operations that they're running, it's absolute suicide. Like they're literally carving the body apart, and we're surgically just putting everything right together on the field and off the field. It's the difference. That's what makes us what we are.
I think what we do as well is we got the right kind of player. You mentioned Grealish. There's no way Grealish would have fitted in at Anfield, no matter what his skill set might be. I just don't think he would have fitted in. I just don't think he's the kind of person that we would want. And maybe that's not helping him at City because he's not the star, and he maybe thinks he should be the star. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing him a disservice, but I just don't feel he would fit in at Anfield in the way his personality is. Yet you look at the players we do bring in, and it's vital for Klopp and the coaches that it's not just about what they can do on the field, it's what the temperament is, what their attitude is, what they're like with the teammates. And that's kind of been the Liverpool way since back in the boot room days. And I do feel, there's loads of comparisons between now and in the boot room days. And I think it depends what we end this season with, but it's hard now to actually say that this team is not as good as what was there in the 70s and 80s. That's how good we are at the moment. But let's see some silverware just to confirm it. Maybe that's the last bit of shred for the older teams to kind of admit that they've been surpassed. That's how good this team is. But it's not just about the skills. It's about the attitudes, the personalities, how they want to play, why they want to play. There's a lot of stuff about Mo Salah and his new contract, whether it happens or not. It's clear from what he said that it's not about money. And if it was, he probably wouldn't have even come here in the first place if it was about money. And I'm sure that's the case with a lot. They don't want to get paid nothing, obviously, but, money's not the key thing. And when you look at clubs like City paying all that money for one player, it reminds me in a way of, I think I've said this before, about going back to when Alex Ferguson took that lad, once a blue, always a blue, Wayne Rooney, over to Man United. and he basically spent the whole transfer budget on one player. And I remember thinking at the time, and they did something similar with Rio Ferdinand, is that's a hell of a gamble that you're taking here. Because if that player turns out to get an injury a couple of games in, that he takes a whole season to recover from, or just turns out not to fit, just, gets unsettled, whatever it is, that's all that money going on that one player. You're not sort of thinking about the rest of your squad. And I feel, is that what City have done with Grealish? Have they just basically focused on getting like a marquee signing as they see him and not thought about the rest of the team? Is that kind of what's happening at Goodison as well, that they're just spending money thinking we'll just buy some big name, high figure transfer, high transfer fee players. This will help us win. And then a couple of years on, you realise not only has it not helped you win, it's put you in a bad place and you've no money left to replace him. And I think it's just the overall thing with Liverpool that I know I'm biased, but I just think we do things the right way. And every player that we sign, I would say these days, is someone that you'd have no problem with kind of having as your mate, introducing to your family, living next door to, whatever. They're not people that you'd hate to live near, are they?
I think, in a weird way, it's like a reflection of the people of the city. Like, it's not all about having the flash thing. It's about having just a happy family, having, everybody around you happy and smiling. And I think, if you've got the luxury to have a nice car or a nice house or something, then that's great. But there's some people in the world, that's all it is. It's the be-all and end-all to have the big flashy thing, the name tag on the clothes. It has to be the newest, the most expensive thing that's on the market. Where I think just as a mentality, like Scouse people in general are just like, well, as long as everyone around us is happy and having a good time, then that's okay. Then that's good enough. Like, you don't need to go and spend hundreds and thousands on lavish birthday parties. If you get all the people around to your house and you have a party in the kitchen or the back garden, it's just as good because the people that you want there are happy. And I'm not saying like that's how the club are doing things and reading things, but in a way it does sort of reflect that lifestyle of what we live as. We're a community. We keep everybody close to us happy, and you make sure that your friends are always happy and like you're there for everybody, and you've always got a shoulder to lean on or a shoulder to cry on, or it's just a reflection of the people, I think. And maybe not so much with Everton, like they call themselves the People's Club, but the people aren't happy unless they're carrying a dog through the streets. I I prefer to walk my dog on a lead, but that's just me.
I'm sure they were on Granada Reports, the next night, and they said they don't even watch football. They were just trying to get through. That was the only way they could do it. So they haven't even got their own dog.
Common sense would say, like, if you were taking your dog for a walk, if you live near a football ground, you don't go when the football's on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very odd, and he was labelled as some sort of Greek god that this dog was paraded through the crowds and whatever. But yeah, the People's Club, the odd people, that's I think the best and nicest thing you could probably say about them at this current time. But yeah, just getting back to it, I think it's the type of people in City that we are, that we're a welcoming city and we're a cultural city. Everybody knows that. There's many different cultures and lifestyles that live here and visit, and no matter where you come from, you're always welcome. And I think that's the sort of portrayal within the club. And Klopp gets the club, he gets the city, he gets the people. I think it's just such a happy, harmonious marriage that's also led into the success that we've got.
I think the other thing as well in this city as well is that you'll be put in your place pretty quickly if you do have ideas above your station. A bit of sarcasm thrown at you, you'll know straight away you've overstepped your mark. And if you've got any sense, you'll learn from that bit of sarcasm, because that's what it is. And,
there's always a welcome arm to welcome you in, but there's always a little sharp tongue to put you back in your place as well. I think there's many people who don't get the Scouse wit and the Scouse sarcasm. I think you've sort of got to embrace it, otherwise you may be offended by it. But it's just the way we are as people. There's not much you can do about it. You're brought up like that, and that's just how we are. I think Klopp himself has got that. I think there was a clip going round. Was it last week when he walks into the press conference, and the press officer was like, "We'll take here's Jurgen Klopp," and he went, Jurgen.
Yes.
like in a proper Scouse accent, and it was like, he's got it. He just knows what we are. He understands the people. He understands the little bit of banter and the sarcasm. He's just nailed it.
Yeah, he is, and that's it. That I mean, and in a way, Bill Shankly, going back to Bill Shankly, as we quite often do, similar kind of thing, that socialist outlook, that looking after each other way of doing things. He was grateful to be where he was in the position he was, and he knew that every one of those fans would love to be in his position, and he knew he had a job to do for them, and that's carried on. We've had a blip where, let's think the soon-to-retired Roy Hodgson certainly didn't fit into that mould, as much as he wishes he would. But we're back there now, and this is the thing. And I think since we last did a show as well, Klopp signed his new deal as well, and there's definitely stuff he was saying in the way he was talking about it that refers to how much this city has made him want to stay. It's not just about the club, it is about the city as well, and the people, and the way he's been made to feel welcome. And I know there's quite a few Everton fans maybe wouldn't say it, Blues who might just sort of speak to you quietly and that, who love Klopp, but they can't really say it too loud, because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you love the guy?
I think most fans of most of the clubs, unless you've got some weird hatred, would love to have Klopp as the manager. And deep down, they'd probably say, I'd love it if he was our manager, because he just connects so well with people. I think maybe Chelsea fans, because they've got that upper snobbery class that they think they're better than everyone else, and they very degrading to a lot of people. Maybe they would be the only ones who'd think we're too good for him. But deep down, Man United fans would have loved to have Klopp. He turned them down, so they'd probably go, "Oh well, no, we didn't." But they'd love to have him. City fans would love if they said, "Who could you have to replace Pep tomorrow?" Klopp would be pretty high on a lot of their lists, and that goes for many other clubs, and even Everton. He'd create that mentality of what the Evertonians, think they've got, where it's us against the world sort of thing, and he would embrace it, and the fist pumping and the chest pumping, it'd go down well at Goodison Park. I think when we did actually play, I can't remember if it was before the derby, our last podcast, but the chants from the copper, Frank Sartori, and deep down that's probably bugging him, because he knows, he's admitted it. There's no denying it. The statements are out there. It's true, and Everton fans probably think, did we really go for the right guy here? Because he's openly Tory in a very Labour socialist city. We'd love to have someone like man of the people like Klopp deep down, but you've got to get them in a dark room on their own in a corner to admit that. But it's just the type of man he is that shows that around the world, around the country, he's the man that most people would want in their club.
I think if you do get someone like Klopp, you've got to look after him as well. And I mean, not the same kind of person, but I mean, they had Ancelotti not long ago, and I saw a few Blues that were sort of sad thinking about that he was their manager not long ago, and there he is now taking his team to a Champions League final. But they had Benitez, who's done the same. They had other managers who maybe deserved a bit more time and a bit more patience. That it's just a thing. They just turn very quickly, and when they're not turning on the manager, they're just blaming it on everybody else, aren't they? Blaming it on us, blaming it on dodgy referees, and never really looking at their own issues. And unless this dog turns out to be like the saviour they've been waiting for, we might have the same thing next year as well. I think something that at least Everton fans don't have to worry about, though, is how on earth they're going to afford to go to a Champions League final if they get to one. It'll be a while before they have to think about that, I imagine. But we were just talking before the show, Spirit of Shankly about to put a letter out, which is no surprise, because now that we're in the final, the usual things happened. There's a stadium that holds 80,000 people. We're getting about 20,000, 19,000. The tickets we do get are ranging somewhere from, there's a few at €70, but they go up to €690, and most of them are €180. No concessions for people over 65, under 16s, no adult packages. It's just going to be an expensive job if you can get a ticket. So, first of all, there aren't many, and when there are, they're expensive. And the thing that I think that stands out to me as well that Spirit of Shankly have said is something I'm annoyed in a lot of ways, but not surprised, that when the European Super League kicked off, everyone was up in arms about it. Everybody, it's very rare in football, everybody has the same opinion, but everybody thought it was a bad idea, including the clubs, including the Premier League, including UEFA. But all that rhetoric at the time was about how bad it is for the game and how bad it is for the fans and how, football shouldn't just be about money and all the rest of it. Yet here we are now, and the spirit of Shankly about to point this out to UEFA that basically you were slagging the Super League off. And they've actually got a quote from UEFA president Seferin, who'd said, "I can't understand how you can see your fans protesting and you don't care. You're full of money anyway. You're not poor, but you want more and more and more." And that's what he said to the Super League. Yeah, here we are today talking about this. It's time that the broadcasters kicked off about this, except they're the same broadcasters that are getting rich on this and only ever kicked off about it because they might have lost their exclusive rights. I think, it needs raising. It's not just about these tickets, but that's a start. But we need to stop letting this hypocrisy take this game over.
I think it's very ironic that Mr. Gary Neville is not out shouting and screaming about this one because A, Man United aren't involved, and B, Sky aren't Champions League broadcasters.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there as a bit of a, throwaway comment, but he's very much open to hear about many things in life, and some things he puts out there I hugely agree on. He portrays himself as a very socialist character, and he does say a lot of the right things, but harp it back to the European Super League or whatever it was 18 months ago, and it was like him and Sky were leading the tirade against it, and for their own reasons or for other reasons, that's up to personal opinion and discussion. But at the end of the day, what they always, as you said, harp back to was it's fans. It's always about fans. And it's not only the Champions League final, the FA Cup final that we got coming up in 8 days' time as we record this. The prices from the semi-final to the final nearly doubled in price for tickets. My ticket for the semi-final went from what would have been £65, I think it was, or £70, sorry, at the semi-final, is £115 at the final. And then upper tier tickets, which I've now actually taken, fortunately enough, I've got one for the final, at £70. They were £40 or £45 for the semi-final. And then that's not in counting, your transport down to London and everything else that goes on in the day. But the FA are just as bad as UEFA, as bad as the broadcasters, as bad as everyone else. Like, fans at the end of the day are a bottom rung of the list, and I don't know what more we can do, because sadly at the end of the day they know there'll always be someone else there in the queue to pay the money to get in the ground, and it shouldn't be like that. I don't know what we can do, really, because yourself how hard Liverpool tickets are to come by. I'm in a fortunate position that I get them. But, if I didn't want my ticket, I could offer it out there. It'd be gone in seconds. Like, there's enough people out there that want a ticket. And, if every person who would potentially be going to the game tomorrow for Tottenham, 55,000, if they all turn round and said, I'm not going because, it's too much money, there'd be another 55,000 waiting to go in, and then another 120, 130,000 waiting to go after them. It's just, I think that they're exploiting fans, and I don't know where they can go about it, but the UEFA Champions League final is scandalous, and that's not even including getting there. We can get into that one in a second, but not only the tickets that they put on at those prices, there's reduced ticket prices of what these categories are. So there's a £450 ticket reduced to £380 for a restricted view. How is it a restricted view in the Stade de France? I really don't know. Every single category has got a restricted view option. I'd love to know where the restricted view options are in the Stade de France, because as far as I'm aware, it's a relatively modern stadium. You're not talking about Goodison Park here with the massive steel pillars in the middle. I don't know where they're coming from, but even the restricted views, would you really want to be paying £380 for a restricted view to watch the pinnacle of the game? I don't think so. I'll be going to Palace myself, but I don't think I'm getting a ticket for any love or money. But I'm purely going for the experience. But
the trouble is, though, they know that they can charge for a restricted view ticket. And I mean, let's face it, if you've ever been in the Anfield Road lower in a match in a European night, and you've been at the back of the Anfield Road lower, you're probably not seeing a lot of the game because everyone stands up, and when you stand up there, you can't see half the pitch. You can't see the goal at the other end and stuff like that. So you spend most of the game sort of ducking down and trying to just see around things. Yeah, it's just difficult to see. But what I will say is, if you are in there, because that's where you've ended up, and it's a big night, you'll never forget your night you had. It's still amazing. It's still something to remember, and that's what they know. They know that they can get away with stuff because what we will put up with, we put up with shit for years, to be blunt about it. And I mean, all the way back to Hillsborough, and I can remember distinctly before Hillsborough, before that semi-final, that I can remember that at the time the newspapers used to kind of print what the average attendance was for each club. They used to kind of put it in on a Sunday because there weren't many stats around then, so that always filled a bit of space. And I can always remember that Forest's average home gate that season was something like 18,000, and ours was something like 45,000. And that was then it was time for the semi-final, dishing out the allocation of tickets, and we got 18,000 and they got 23,000 or something. And I can just remember thinking that we got an allocation that was equivalent to the sort of average home gate. They got a fraction of ours, and they got an allocation that was more than the average home gate. Everything else that happened to Hillsborough, that's another story on top of it. But that's the kind of attitude that it's been all along, that there's never any sort of ability to kind of look at how many fans there are and sorting them out with tickets, getting them in, helping them to get in, helping it to be affordable. I honestly think you've only got to look at how football was during COVID. I mean, that season where there were no fans was horrendous to watch on TV, and most of their money comes from TV and sponsors who are paying for having their names put on TV and everyone wanting to watch it. If all the fans stopped going to games, they wouldn't be on TV much longer because no one would watch it. It wouldn't be as interesting anymore. We all carried on because we knew it was going to come back. And I think somehow we've got to get that message to them, how much they rely on us, and maybe us stop relying on them. But I genuinely don't know the answer other than keep pressing and pressing and pressing at them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it happens. I did see that Roma given all their fans who were eligible. Well, sorry, I'll rephrase that. Roma have got to the Conference League final, which, as far as I'm aware, is in Albania. I could be wrong. In a stadium that holds around about 20,000. So they're probably only going to get an allocation of about 5,000 to 6,000 if you go under percentages similar to the Champions League, where each club is getting a shade under 25% of the allocation, the capacity of the ground. And obviously Roma are a huge club in Europe and in Italy. But what they're doing is a ballot for their fans who are eligible, and they'll get the tickets for free because how do you single out, like, to get to Albania of all places, and dish out 6,000 tickets or whatever? And I'm guessing it's 6,000. It could be more, and that's just a really good gesture by the club. Like, they're looking after the fans. They understand that it's not the premium competition in Europe, but the fans have been there week in, week out, sort of thing, and all the way through the competition, the Stadio Olimpico's been near enough full, I was reading. So they've supported the fans support the club, and they're looking after them in one way or another. Many clubs could do that. I think Liverpool have reduced took an allocation of, I think it was 5,000 or something, free tickets from UEFA, but they used that to reduce the cost of the lower two categories of tickets. But they're still an expensive cost of ticket, as you say. I think it was 180. Was it you were saying is the? I think that's the category 3, and then the category 4 is 70 or 80 euros. And Liverpool have used their free tickets in quotation marks to reduce the band price of those tickets. But more could be done by the clubs. More could be done by everybody. But sadly, football's a business, and at the end of the day, the bottom line is money, and that's all they probably really care about.
I can remember going to the final in Kyiv, and I was going over, but I didn't have a ticket, and I had a few kind of leads on tickets, so I wasn't madly worried. I was sort of, 50-50 in terms of how confident I was that I'd get a ticket. And I thought, if I don't get one, I don't get one. I'm sure I won't be the only one. I'm sure we'll all find something to do while it's on. I've got to try it. And as it was, I got a ticket on the plane over, And the price, the face value, I can remember thinking, like, I didn't mind paying it because I kind of told myself I might have to end up paying over the odds. I'm not a fan of touts, but, you know, you sometimes have to resign yourself that if that's the only way you're going to get one, then maybe that's what it's going to be. And I would have still been reluctant to do it. But I thought, you know, back in my mind, how much would I go up to? When I got the ticket, I'm thinking, you know, I would have been sort of annoyed at a tout charging that much for a match. I can't remember what it was now, but, you know, it may have been 140, 150 euros or something. And I'm thinking, you know, it's just stupid. It really is stupid. And at one time, finals used to be pretty cheap. They weren't ever that expensive. So it kind of like everything, no matter how good things are, there's always someone that's going to come along and make them not so good. The only thing I will say, though, is that whatever happens, that stadium will be full. I reckon that when you look around, you'll find that it's not just a fifth of the stadium that belongs to the colours of the two fans. I'm pretty sure that all those tickets that went in the ballots, you know, the general sale ballot, if you like, and all the ones that go to corporates, will find their ways into the hands of Liverpool and Madrid fans. And any sort of talk about how your ticket can be restricted because you've got to have your passport against it or something like that is complete and utter nonsense, because you cannot administer that for a final. You know, as long as your ticket's not a forgery, you'll get in. The only thing I will say is, if you are looking at tickets, please be careful, because there are so many con artists around. Just really, really be careful. Have a really good think, you know, because you may end up with a fake ticket. You just don't want that to happen, or even not a ticket at all. So just be careful when you're looking for your tickets.
Yeah, there's a lot of people chancing their arm, especially in the day and age of social media. Even for the Carabao Cup final not so long ago, I was mooching around, especially on Twitter, you know, seeing if I could pick one up, and the prices quoted, you know, they were outrageous. And not only that, like, people were saying they haven't even got the tickets. So at one point there was 3 different people or accounts I contacted, and they were selling the same ticket. Like, so it didn't exist. Someone had posted the tickets online somewhere, and they basically stole the photo and were trying to rip people off by using this ticket. And it was the same block, the same seats, the same row, whatever. Every time you go, I just out of played, you know, a bit of idiocy, and so like, oh, where's the ticket for? Oh, it's in block whatever. Oh, how much are you after? Blah 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 blah. What row is it by any chance? And, you know, all the time I was just like playing along, and it would always come back to the same one. And I was like, wait, well, you're not. So therefore, I reported a couple of people, like, you know, or you blew them up. I posted a couple of people on Twitter and like, don't trust this person or this seller because they're trying to rip people off. And sadly, it's the day and age that we live in where there's that many people out there looking to take advantage of others. And you've just got to try and look after each other as much as you can. If you're fortunate enough to have a ticket for the game, then just also be really careful with it, because, you know, there will be, you know, pickpockets and stuff about. Just make sure if you are going, you're in a small group of people that you trust and keep close by. Like, that's what I'll be doing. We'll be travelling without tickets, with the, you know, no realistic chance or hope of that we'll get one. But we'll be sticking together as a group of 4 or 5, and, you know, anywhere we go, we'll do it as a group, because you're out of your own country, you're out of your own sort of comfort zone. You've got to look after each other. Okay, there'll be probably about 100,000 Liverpool fans there, but you've still got to make sure you look after your own, and that's just what we are as people. You'd always make sure you look after your own.
That's it. Because I mean, you know, all joking apart, I mean, you do have a couple of drinks. You know, you end up a little bit sort of brave and all the rest of it. But if there's a groupie like that, there's always one of you that just got enough sensible sort of ability left in them to carry on looking after the mate. And then maybe later on someone else takes that shift over of being the sensible one. But, you know, it is about looking after each other, keeping an eye out for each other, just watching out. And of course, lots of sarcasm, of course, if you step out of line. That's just how it is, isn't it? It's part of travelling as a Red.
Yeah, and that, I mean, we can just on the money aspect, that the cost of travel it's ridiculous. Like, they're looking at £650 for chartered return flights from Liverpool to Paris, and you'll literally probably spend 12 to 18 hours on the ground in Paris before you're back in Liverpool. There's not a lot you can do about that. The exploitation of fans is there because they know. they'll pay you. My girlfriend works at Liverpool Airport. Before we even kicked off Tuesday night, there was nearly 70 flights scheduled to go live should Liverpool go through. Obviously through various travel companies and airlines and stuff like that. And, you don't need to go far to search who these companies are, but, they've done a lot of travel. They know what they're doing. But the ballpark figure for a return charter flight from Liverpool to Paris is £650 flat fee. There's fees above that if you want to include hotels and other bits and bobs. But it's basically just accepted that. I think when we went to Kyiv, it was 800. When we went to Madrid a few years ago, it was 650, 700. It's 650, 700 quid now for Paris. And I was speaking to her and said, well, you can probably fly one aircraft to Paris and back 3 times in the time it took to get an aircraft to Kyiv when we went there a few years ago. Or when we went to Madrid. You could probably get an aircraft to Paris and back to Paris again in that time. Surely the price would come down. She said, well, you'd like to think so, but these companies know what they're doing, and sadly, through what they've gone through with COVID, they're now just exploiting people and trying to recoup profits, which,
I know.
How do you win?
When he was Kyiv and also Basel, I know about chartering flights to some extent, because I didn't go chartering flights, but I was helping out people who were, and so certainly for Kyiv, they had flight lined up, sort of made inquiries about it, and the price for chartering the whole thing was whatever it was. I don't know, I can't remember the figure, and it just basically doubled as soon as Liverpool got through, and it was double if you buy it now, and you had to put down instantly, you had to buy the whole plane, whatever the cost is of the whole plane, you had to put that down there and then in some sort of safe account, and then try and make your money back. And if you didn't do it there and then, it was going to go up and up and up. And I think that, there's so much goes on with that it's clearly lots of people are making profit, but it might actually be the people who own these planes or license these planes out. I think about them coming backwards and forwards. I know the crew that was on the charter flight we went, they basically spent the day just sitting around waiting until it was time to fly us back again. So I don't know whether there's issues on crew having to have rest breaks and things like that. But as you say, there's always ways to sort things out. There's always ways to have people in place and to work something out between them. I'm sure if there were that many people flying there every day, there'd be plenty of crew to be able to work it all. So it's, but it is, everyone who can make a bit of profit out of a football fan will make it. And the trouble is we all fall for it. So that's the downside to it, isn't it?
Liverpool fans are savvy enough. They're well-travelled. They'll find a route. They'll find the best, cheapest route that they can. And, a lot of people will go on adventures. They'll go via other countries. And they'll be there en masse. I don't know if it was Liverpool themselves put out the other day, on the ballot email I got yesterday, I think it was, to say if your criteria were eligible for the ballot, for the very small amount of tickets that will be available, do not travel to Paris without a ticket. And it's that's just the most throwaway line. Did they not see what happened in Madrid? We will take more to Paris than what we took to Madrid because it's so much easier to get to from England.
That's the thing, going to Ukraine, it's not somewhere you just nip to, but people did. People got clapped out minibuses and things, didn't they? And thought, we'll get there, we'll get back and we'll bin it at the end, whatever. Going to Paris, people do it every day. So it's not, it's probably actually cheaper on a normal day away from this. It's probably cheaper to go to Paris than it is to go to London. Yeah,
you could probably fly to Paris, or I know there's a few people flying into Belgium and Holland and Germany and getting trains for a fraction of the cost of what it get. You'll probably get a train from Amsterdam to Paris for the price it pays to get from Liverpool to Leeds.
Yeah.
In the UK, and just there's so much that can be said about that. That's a different conversation, but
yeah,
we will get there one way or another. Liverpool have got there as a club, and Liverpool as a fan base will get there and more than be represented across the city. And as you said earlier on, we might only have a fifth official allocation of the stadium, but you can more than guarantee there'll probably be about half or more of that stadium will be red on the night.
Yeah, that's the thing. We always find a way, and it can be sort of frowned upon by some, but there's ways to get into football grounds safely and stuff, and there's always I don't know. We just do. We just get there and we just support our team, and we can always hear our team, even if it's one of those grounds where they make away fans sit up in the gods. You can still hear our fans singing, and it's just an amazing time to be at a final. If you ever get the chance to go one, get to one if you can. It's something special. But I do think, on the whole, tickets should go to those who've been able to go every game. And I think what Roma are doing is amazing if that's what they're doing. Because if people have turned up for those games that are sort of like, I don't know, reminds me of the Screen Sports Super Cup that was a thing back in the 80s that no one wanted to go to. And it lasted, I think, one season. It's, if you go, you deserve to go to the final. If you've gone to the early rounds, you deserve to go to the final. It's just, there's no fair way to do things in football. But you know what? It's good to be a Liverpool fan because we've got this to laugh about and to joke about. And thinking of all these finals that's coming up, it's also league games in between all these as well. But with what's left for Liverpool this season, it's just feels like every game is a final now. And you can sort of think there's not one player supposedly I don't think anyone's getting dropped. You're getting rotated. You're getting shifted out because there's someone who's fitter or maybe better for that role. It's going to be fun to watch what's left of this season on all fronts, whatever happens.
Yeah, I think Klopp said himself, didn't he? It was cup final mode since January or something like that, which was quite, a statement to put out there that we had about 40 cup finals to play, given all our games we played. But what is left for us, and you're not in control of everything. You're not in control of anything really in football. It's out there to be negotiated on the field. But the two cup finals we're more in control of because obviously it's a one-off game. But the other games that we've got in the Premier League, the 4 remaining games, we have got to just treat them as individual games because we can only look after ourselves. We can only do our own business. We can only make sure we play our own game to our best ability. And, if we get over the line, brilliant. If we don't get over the line, it's just what it is. There's not much more we could have done. You can always look back and pinpoint certain points in the season, but they've been and gone. At the end of the day, this Liverpool team has only lost 3 games all season, and one of them was arguably a throwaway game against Inter Milan. The other 2 games were West Ham and Leicester, which you look back now and they're a bit bitter to take. I think Leicester one was a bit bitter taste in the mouth because it was in between Christmas and New Year. It was a jovial time of the year, and I don't think anything sort of went right for us that night. We just didn't seem to turn up. But since then, that's sort of been like a trigger point. And like, right, we do not lose. We do not take our eye off the ball. And as you say, with the players, it's there's no one being dropped. As you say, it's brought in for whatever reason. The old horses for courses cliche, but you can go all the way through the team and say, like, well, I don't know if we were saying last time on the pod that there's certain games that you want a certain player in, for example, Joel Matip or Ibu Kanate, you'll want a certain player for that game, or it might be a certain game for Luis Diaz or Diogo Jota or Sadio Mane through the middle. It's the luxury of having this squad that we've got, and we've managed it that well to get to this position. That's why we're in this position of being in cup finals and in the hunt for the title with 4 games to go. And we've seen what can happen in cup games this week alone. Things can change in the flick of an instant. It only takes 2 minutes to score 2 goals as it is. The league can be changed if we treat every game as a cup final, as a cup sort of competition game. They can change in an instant. We just don't know. The only unfortunate thing is that, or maybe it is fortunate, I don't know, that we play now before Man City. Our next 2 league games are Spurs on Saturday and Villa on Tuesday, if I'm right. Man City play Newcastle on Sunday and Wolves on Wednesday. So it's on us now to put the marker down, put the pressure on. Yeah. And we've seen they don't like pressure. Wednesday night was a classic example. They do not like pressure. They don't like chaos. They don't like atmospheres. And fingers crossed, by one way or another, in the 4 games they've got left, they've got to go to Wolves, who've caused them problems in the past. They've got to go to West Ham, who Spursly went out of the Europa League last night. they've got to play for something for this season. They've got to play to get back in the Europa League next season. Those fans will want to be back on that European adventure they've been on this year. Hopefully, by one way or another, the pressure that we put on by playing before them and atmospheres, there might just be, a chink in their armour, because the evidence was there Wednesday night. If you do apply enough, the pressure will explode at some point.
Well, that's the thing. I think Liverpool have been a scalp for sort of teams below them in the league for years because of all the stuff that went on in the 70s and 80s, and now we're a scalp again. I mean, if you beat Liverpool, it's such an achievement, and you're rightly going to boast about it and so on. And I think that to some extent, maybe Man City is one of those situations. Except, I think what can also happen is you can get clubs who almost think that these teams are unbeatable, and they're like, well, doesn't matter if we lose this one, does it? And they kind of almost go into it as if they've already been beaten before they started. And I think as long as some of these people are facing can look at it and think, look, these are beatable, look at them, they're beatable. I mean, Liverpool, can you imagine how, I don't think City would have coped against Villarreal. If they'd have been in the position we were in and then they'd gone to Villarreal and faced what we faced, I reckon they'd have been behind by half time, not level on aggregate, behind, because I just think they'd have crumbled under it. So, the question, I suppose, now is whether these other clubs can just turn the screw on Man City for us. Just do us a bit of a favour, just competition integrity and all that. Just put everything into beating them for us if you can, because they're going to be stinging, and that's going to work one of two ways. It's either going to be you'll see the best game they've ever played, or they'll still be nervous and affected by it. And you also wonder if it's going to cause any rifts amongst them. Because I'm sure every single one of those players has got ideas about who should and shouldn't have started, and who should and shouldn't have come on, and when the sub should have been made, and things like that. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how together they are. Because I think that's one thing Liverpool definitely have. We're a team that's together. We're a squad that's together. We're all there for the same thing. I just don't know whether City have got the same. Maybe they have, but have they? We'll see.
No, I just don't think they have. Again, it always harpbacks to leaders, and you listen to other podcasts like on Anfield Index. I was listening to Dave and Carl's Scouser, the one leading into the Tottenham game this morning, and they were speaking about the leadership and the lack of gnarl and nastiness within the Man City team. And the more you think about it, it really is pretty much comes down to that. When the chips are down, you need people to stand up and count and be fighting next year. And City don't really have that. If it comes down to playing ugly against West Ham or even Newcastle at the weekend, because as you say, it's either a hangover performance or it's a fight back performance. Newcastle put up a decent showing against us. We weren't better than third gear, which we've talked about gears before in the past, but we just done enough. But if City are in a situation, when Newcastle maybe keep it to 1-0 or keep it to 0-0 and force the screw and force the pressure, after they got the leaders and the fighters in the team to stand up and put it against them, and Newcastle will go there with nothing to lose. They played us with nothing to lose, and the third best team, second best team on performance this calendar year. They're going to go and have a go because they want to be where Man City are, because obviously the money coming into them, rightly or wrongly, however you judge that, their goal is to be where Man City are as quickly as they can possibly get there. So they're going to want to lay down a marker and prove that, especially those players who they brought in and those that they've already got, that they're good enough to wear that black and white shirt and play for them. So we're thinking of any way and wishing any possibility for us to gain an advantage and for Man City to drop points, because that's what it's going to take. But I think we're a team, and as you said, they're not. And we're more comfortable. We would feel absolutely fine if we were to go in on Saturday night against Tottenham 1-0 down at half time. We would know that we've got enough in our team, enough in that squad, enough in the management on the sidelines to turn it round. Where have Man City, the question mark remains, where we know that we've been there and done it. So I think that's the difference at the moment between us.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Obviously, for obvious reasons, I hope so. I mean, it's it's just important that we keep up our end of the bargain, because if we, and it literally be the last 2 minutes of the whole league season that things change. So that's how it could end up being that things are decided. So we've just got to keep going, taking every game as it comes and winning them if we can, believing we can, but being respectful. And that includes Chelsea, of course. Just quickly on Chelsea in the FA Cup final, it's about, it's one of those teams that we just felt like, certainly from sort of the time Rafa arrived and they got Mourinho and they got taken over by Russia and stuff. Sorry, by a Russian owner, I should say. It just feels like we just go through these phases where we can't stay away from them, don't we? And here we go, here we are again, but this time a German manager against a German manager. Is it? I don't know. It's not going to be an easy match, is it? But how are you feeling? It's a bit far off yet, but how are you feeling?
More confident now going into the FA Cup final than what I was for the Carabao. Obviously, certain things have transpired with the under sanctions. Then I can't quite remember if they were under sanctions for the Carabao Cup final or not.
I don't think they were quite yet.
But even if they were, it was only in the very early days of it. But we've played them 3 times this year. In 90 minutes, we've drew with them every time. But I think over the past, what was it, 8, 9 weeks, 10 weeks maybe since the Carabao Cup final, the two teams have gone in opposite directions. We've powered on down the road and churned out win after win after win. And Chelsea have stuttered and faltered, and I think, that there could be question marks as to whether the off-field stuff is having an influence. You've got players in the squad out of contract and know that they're not there next season. You're looking at likes of Rudiger, Christensen, Aspilicueta. There's, the Lukaku issue. There seems to be a bit of a disharmonious feeling within the team, that the way they played in Madrid and they sort of fell apart and went out the Champions League, similar to Man City. They just feel like they're just sort of falling over the line as such, where we're sprinting to the end of the line, our heads are down, we're going for it. And I just feel that, all the momentum is with us going into that. I mean, we've got 2 league games before then. Who knows how the league will lie going into the FA Cup final? We could be noses in front, we could be nose just behind. But I just feel like now I feel so much more relaxed going into that game than what I did for the Carabao Cup. I was really nervous for the Carabao Cup, and I think we've got enough now, especially with like the sign of Luis Diaz. He's an X-factor player, and he was brilliant in the Carabao Cup when he played against him, and he's settled even more since then. Like, he's obviously been here longer. He will have learned the system, the pressing game, how we operate as a team. It's just more cohesive. I just think that we've just got more of an edge now. I feel more confidence. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I know. I think that's the thing. I mean, I respect every team we play, even the teams that are sort of the minnows, if you like, when you played an FA Cup third round game. You've got to respect everyone, but you've got to have belief in yourself, and I do believe in us. I think it's interesting as well that you mentioned the off-field stuff, because I've noticed them blaming that for what's going on. Now, okay, you can get a bit of unrest because players wanted new contracts and aren't getting them, so maybe agents are sniffing around and players are getting distracted, but when you actually got your players in the dressing room before a game, when you got them on the training ground getting ready for it, that's the same squad that you had before the sanctions started. You've not actually lost anyone. You've got the same players, same manager, same everything. There's no excuse for blaming the off-field stuff. But if they're blaming that, then that's good, because in a way it means maybe they're not seeing whatever the real problem is, and maybe if they saw the real problem, they could fix that instead of hiding behind other things. So I quite like it when I hear stuff like that, because unless it's just a front for the media type of thing, it suggests they don't know what the problem is, and it could get worse before it gets better. And as long as it doesn't get better this season, then we're sorted, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's that much said in the media and stuff. You become like disconnected from it. You just don't really pay any attention. So over the past couple of years, there's that much going on with COVID and like the stuff with Ukraine and Russia and all the things that are going on. You kind of just don't take any notice of the news sometimes. Weeks can pass you by before you realise, oh, this is the news we're watching tonight, or that's what's going on in such a place, because I don't know about yourself, but I sort of just think, well, I've just got to live in my own world and make sure that my world and my people around me and the best I can do.
Yeah,
is also all I can. That's all I can control and look after to the best of my ability. And that might sound like you don't really care about what's going on, but sometimes maybe it's like the type of people we are from being from Liverpool that there's that much going on around you. You just got to look after yourself. Like
but
we've faced that much adversity that as long as we're okay, then that's just good enough for us.
But also, I think there's that aspect of like you hear stuff and you want to go and help. Like if you see some, I mean, I don't watch the news. I saw some harrowing pictures the other day. Some kids in Ukraine that have got disabilities, and I just thought, my God, that's horrible for them. But I can't do anything about that personally, maybe. And if I did, there'd be another one on the news tomorrow. And then to get to a point where if you really, because you do care about people and you hate people, seeing people suffer, that you can end up unable to. You can't fix it all. So sometimes you are better off just sort of. Not that you don't care, it's because you care too much and you end up detaching yourself a little bit and maybe focusing on what you can do something about, which, as you say, could be things closer to home, it could be family, it could be friends. Certainly from a sport point of view now with football as well. I used to be a time when I'd have Sky Sports News on all day in the background if I was at home. I'd have it on in the evening if no one else was in. Might be reading a book or doing something else, but it'd be on in the background. I can't be doing with it now. I just avoid it because it's just full of like stuff that winds me up all the time. And a lot of it is people just sort of saying stuff that, they've not really thought about. So I just leave them to it. But I do hear snippets now and again, which is how I hear, I just keep, what bits I've heard about Chelsea just feels like they're blaming other people, which is always good. I think for this week though, that's it. I think, we need to go and have a bit of a rest now because, you're going to need your voice for all these games. You're going to need to rest in between the matches. Being a fan isn't as hard as being a player, but,
mine's finally recovered after that 10-day stint between, I think it was Wembley, United, the Derby and Villarreal in 10 days, and my voice and throat was shot. It's only just recovered about 2 days ago, and you think, well, we've got Spurs at the weekend, and I've got a week to get it back to normal for the FA Cup, and then I think it's every weekend now I've got a game. Yeah. I'll be going over to the Champions League final. And just while we're on that subject, I think there is a couple of people from AI going. I don't know if Gags is going over, and I think Eddie might be going over. Yeah. There's a couple of others mentioned, and I don't know if they're gonna. I think Gags was looking at setting something up maybe on Discord. I think it was muted. I don't use it very often. I'll pop my head in maybe for 5-10 minutes every couple of days to see if there's anything posted, maybe the transfer chat or ticket news or stuff or whatever. But I think he is looking at setting something up. I think he said the other day, and maybe trying to arrange for people to meet up and have a chat and a drink or whatever over there, which would be lovely if you could meet some of the faces behind the account, sort of thing. So yeah, I think just if you are in the Discord community, then keep your eye out on that, or maybe just keep your eye on Twitter. I think maybe there might be stuff put out there for people to meet up and gather, and it would be, as I say, nice to put some names to faces. I think when we went to Madrid, I managed to see Gags and Eddie about 1 a.m. in the morning. They were in the corner of some square doing a few podcast recordings, but it's just nice to meet people because there's all these voices that we listen to. Myself included, I listen to all these other people. It is just nice to introduce yourself as people and say hello. So yeah, just keep an eye on that.
I mean, I've worked, working from home on the day job for a year before I actually met anyone because I changed day jobs. And when I went in, it was just good to actually see people in real life and stuff. I mean, you don't have to see them all the time, but it is good, and just getting to meet people. And I think with stuff like this, it's good because, we're talking to you now and we want to know what you think. It's sort of, it's okay doing this, but when you general life conversations that you have, you get feedback of people. You can tell if what you've said is good or bad, if they agree or disagree. And it's just, that's how life is, normal conversation. So if that is good and you are out there, I hope you get the chance to catch up. And if not, I'm hoping, I don't know yet, but we were all going to get together from AI over the summer And then COVID came along a couple of years back, and I think it was towards the end of the season, we were going to get together. Then COVID came along and just took that away from us. But I'm sure that when everything's settled down and we've got some time to think about it, that we'll do something like that and meet up in Liverpool as well. Because, yeah, football, I mean, they say football with fans is nothing, but, you know, football's even better when you're with the fans. So I think that's a good thing for us to do. Have you anything else you want to say before we call it a day? Any messages you want to send out to any local Blues or anything who might still be listening?
No, but you know, I didn't expect them to win last weekend, so that's G'd them up a little bit. But they're still in the relegation zone. So if the season was to end tomorrow, they go down. That's all I keep reminding them. Like, you know, you can win last week, but you're still in 18th, so you're still going down. Yep,
points on the board are worth more than games in hand and all the rest of it as well. So, you know, they've got to win these games, but we'll see. I think they'll survive, but we'll see.
We hope we don't. But yeah,
mixed
I
feelings.
mean, by the next time we chat, I think we're hoping to get something back maybe in a couple of weeks, which might be before the last game of the season. So, you know, hopefully after the FA Cup final, before the last game of the season, we'll see how many trophies we're still in the hunt for, how many maybe in the bag. But yeah, I mean, we'll hopefully get something down before that last game, and we might have a better picture of who's going to win the league and who's going to the championship.
Yeah. So there you go. Speak to you. We will be back hopefully soon in a couple of weeks. I might pop. I think I'm on a couple of Raws as well here and there. And either way, maybe you'll hear us back in a couple of weeks with croaky voices because we've done so much shouting and stuff already. But either way, you'll hear us and look forward to it. And thanks again, as always, for listening, and speak soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.